Hi, my name is Peter McAliney. I'm the Director of Professional and Executive Education at Rutgers University School of Business in Camden. I've been with Rutgers for approximately 4 years now. Higher education for probably about 10, but before that, it's been about 30 years in the private sector, which is a great combination to bring to a role that I'm in now at Rutgers for the professional and executive side of the services we provide to our community.
Why is lifelong learning no longer optional? And how should higher education adapt to support continuous skill development throughout a person's life?
So we've know that the business environment has become much more fast-paced. We know that the business environment is also now has the introduction of new technologies, for example, artificial intelligence. We know that the business environment is now experiencing much more of a global perspective. So it all kind of adds up to the fact that things are moving very quickly, and in order for an individual to remain relevant, they really need to be constantly skilling up, is what they say. So what used to go by in prior days where you'd have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, you go and you get a very linear step for your educational. Really now you have to continually refresh your skills to make sure that you have the skills that are required to be successful in the business environment as it's constantly morphing. And it's happening much more quickly. The rate of change is much more quick than it was in prior years. And it's a lot more competition, whether it be here domestically or globally.
With career paths becoming more lattice than linear, how can colleges and universities better prepare students for a future of multiple careers rather than a single trajectory?
Probably should start with explaining what a latticed career is. Lattice career means, and just think of lattice from the visual perspective, where it's a cross function. In traditional education, one became an accountant, one became a marketing person, one became a finance person, one went into HR. Well, today's world, because the businesses have become so integrated, really you have to have a knowledge base in many of the different traditional functional areas. So your career may start you in human resources. And 3 or 4 years later, you might end up working in a finance area. Certainly in HR, you're going to be working very closely with folks in finance, marketing, management, distribution, supply chain, all the other functional areas. So really, in order to see and have the perspective of the entire organization, you've got to have a knowledge base in all of the functional areas. So what that means is no longer might we see a career path where you start out as a junior person in function X, an intermediate role in function X, and then a senior role in function X. You may start as a junior role in function X and then go over in kind of a lattice perspective to a functional role in functional area Y. Then you might go back and become an intermediate person in functional area X, or because of the two areas that you've gotten a good foundation, you may take an intermediate role in yet another area, which has a high tangency with those two particular areas. So you sometimes will be going sideways, you sometimes will be going up, sometimes you'll have to take a step backwards. For example, you might be in an intermediate role in a particular functional area, and in order to take the next level step up, you've got to go in a backward lattice to an area that you've never seen before, functional area you've never seen before. So you've got to get comfortable with that. The traditional model is that you have a very upward linear trajectory, and that's with the complexity and the interrelationships that we see in business is no longer something that's going to provide somebody success over the duration of their career. So it's something that I think that in universities and our education system has to support that notion, because that's a notion I think that's changed and is morphing even as we speak to you here today.
In an age where AI is transforming industries, what role should higher education play in helping students build soft skills that remain uniquely human?
So I've got a colleague of mine actually is the chairman of the philosophy department at West Point. And he has been for the last 4 to 5 years, as since I've really gotten to develop a relationship with him, has really kind of keeps compounding the fact that the soft skills are the skills that are important. Um, when up until very recently, it was all about the technology. We heard about technology boot camps, that you had to be master of the technologies. But really, we now live in what, and actually this did come out of the military background, what's called a VUCA environment. That's a variable, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. And in order to be able to navigate that kind of an environment, you need to have the soft skills. How do you work as a team? How do you work when you are in a negotiation? How do you work when you confront some sort of adversity in the workplace? So the soft skills need to be integrated and really reinforced throughout the educational process. When I know I was in my formative educational years, I learned things in a very disciplinary fashion, and that has been the traditional role of education. However, we need to start very early, and I'm talking about going back to primary grades, to enable individuals to feel comfortable in an environment that is a VUCA environment. And those are skills such as resilience and empathy, listening skills, cooperation, coordination, collaboration. These are skills that, they call them soft skills. I know people have been trying to rebrand them as life skills, as business ready skills, call them what you will. But these are skills that really complement the technical side, because the technical side is something that's really, believe it or not, is a lot easier to learn because it's very black and white. Whereas the soft skills have much more of a gradient and require much more of a nuanced perspective that individuals really need to be trained how to be successful in navigating those skills.
How might the expansion of Pell Grants to cover non-credit short-term programs reshape the traditional model of higher education?
Up until recently, and when I say recently, the last 2 or 3 years, there's been really an emphasis on advancing in your career. The path was through higher education. The trades were relegated kind of to a secondary status. As a result of that, we have created really a paucity in the trades for providing the services that we need. I don't know if you've tried to have any work done in your house, but trying to line up a tradesperson can be very difficult and challenging. This is partially because of the way that our society has relegated the trades into a secondary position. They're an equally honorable path and an equally honorable career, and that is now becoming more acknowledged in the vernacular and the conversations that are going around. So much so that in the bill that was just recently passed through the Congress and the Senate, there's been a special stipulation where the funding, the Title IV funding, is going to be equally applied to trades careers as to higher education. Up until now, Title IV was relegated strictly to higher education and degree-oriented programs. Now that we see that there is funding available for the trades, I think we're going to see a lot more opening of these positions. And I think this is really going to impact across the entire spectrum of demographics that are coming up through our society now. So no longer does one have to be, quote unquote, book smart to be able to be supported in their development of their career, but also now individuals who are more prone to trades-oriented activities will get the financial support. That's it in theory. I was speaking with another colleague of mine only yesterday. It's very unclear how this is going to shake out, though. First of all, it's not going to be impacted until July of 26. And it's still unclear as to what non-credit means. There's a number of interpretations, and I'm sure over the course of the following year that will get ironed out. But really the bottom line is that we will be seeing, I think, more individuals who are going to be financially supported to go into the trades through different trade schools. And it's going to really, I think, open up career opportunities across the entire spectrum of young adults who are, and even intermediate term career professionals to go into a line of work that they may not have considered before.
What opportunities do you see for apprenticeships in non-traditional fields to connect trade skills with business or leadership education?
So probably about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe longer, the state of New Jersey established the Gaines grants. growing apprenticeships in non-traditional sectors. What this did is it opened up the idea for apprenticeships beyond what we traditionally think of apprenticeships in the trades. This is going to really, I think, merge the idea of just because you go into the trades doesn't mean that you're relegated to working with your hands for your entire career. Companies need people to manage the trades. So with the opening up of the apprenticeships, what we're seeing is that there are, according to the Department of Labor and the different codification systems that they have, there are opportunities to create apprenticeships for managerial and leadership positions. As a matter of fact, I worked with yet another colleague of mine here in the state of New Jersey, where we designed a program for a disaster remediation company. Actually, it was with a private equity funder who was doing a roll-up of disaster remediation companies. And what they realized is they were buying these small family-run organizations that were working very locally, and they were rolling them up into a larger umbrella organization. And what they realized is they wanted to have people to manage now this growing network that they had put together. They had lots of tradespeople. They didn't have people to manage and lead. To bring in somebody to manage and lead who didn't know the business probably would work, but not as efficiently as it would if you took somebody who had aspirations to manage and lead from the trades themselves to go through an apprenticeship program in management. And when you think of apprenticeship programs, you're really not thinking about management leadership, but there are now these different programs that the Department of Labor have identified. And I worked with a colleague of mine to put together and structure a program where we looked at the educational side and we looked at the hands-on side, and we developed a path over the course of 2 years that we get an individual be ready and be prepared to be a manager and a leader in an organization. Now, because the trades are oftentimes in smaller kinds of units, companies call them what you will, this is an opportunity for an institution such as Rutgers to work with a registered apprenticeship provider and, if you will, think about crowdsource individuals from different smaller organizations and put together a cohort of leader, manager, trainees or apprentices across a variety of companies and bring them all up to speed at the same time. And what this does, and one of the impediments to apprenticeships up until this point in time, and it's kind of not given it as much value as it could, is that you have to be able to provide a job. Anybody who's going to be sponsoring an apprenticeship has to be able to provide a job. And that's always been kind of a sticking point with individual universities, for example, in trying to roll these out. But if you're working with organizations who already have employees that are going through these programs, what you're doing is you're moving them up within the organization, so you've got a much higher probability of having a job waiting for them when they're done with the apprenticeship program. What that does for companies is when they are applying for RFPs for federal or state uh, grants or funds, they will get preferential treatment if they are running apprenticeship programs. So it's really a win-win-win situation with the way we see these non-traditional apprenticeship programs, taking trades individuals, turning them into managers and leaders. It supports the growth of the companies, supports the growth of the regional economy, and it gives companies an opportunity to have preferential treatment as they bid on larger government-funded projects.
How can learn and earn or experiential learning models help students gain practical experience, reduce costs, and foster knowledge transfer across generations?
So I think it's no surprise to anybody to know that the student loan crisis is a crisis. To $1.5 trillion in debt. What the traditional model has kind of set us up to do that. The earn and learn is a model that says, we used to call it the co-op model, by the way, enables individuals to go out during their higher educational uh, career, if you will, to go out and get experience in the workplace and at the same time make some money which can then be turned around to fund their next level of learning. So when you think about it, it's much more of, I talked about the lattice career. This is a latticed educational approach as well. And that means that, no longer need we be holden to the 4-year completion. Again, the model that we've kind of enforced on our youngsters. There's really no reason to complete in 4 years, because that's why it kind of supports why we're in the mess we are in with the student loans. So if we look at an education as being ongoing, and I talked about lifelong learning, but if we see it as being ongoing, individuals can get some education, go out into the workplace, apply that education, go back into the education, get the next level of education. It used to be called spiraling in the primary grades. So what this does is it doesn't burden individuals with high debt because they're earning as they go. What it does, and we hear this, look at any survey, and I've been around higher education in the private sector for the last 25, 30 years. We continually hear that executives say that students are not ready to go into the workplace. Well, if they're using the earn and learn model, they are out in the workplace. They are getting the exposure to the different generations. They are learning what the protocols are in the workplace, and they're not getting dropped in at the end of a very much walled garden approach to education. They're getting integrated as they go along. This supports the need for organizations to get individuals who are workforce ready when they arrive, because they've been introduced in smaller proportions into the workforce. It ameliorates the fact that individuals will no longer necessarily have to accrue all this student loan debt that they have been accruing. And what it does is it gives individuals an opportunity. I talk about a latticed career path. It gives them an opportunity to see different functional areas within an organization as they are getting their education, so that they can make more informed career choices as they progress through their career.
How should higher education institutions rethink the balance between formal and informal learning to create a more flexible, portfolio style approach to education?
Up until now, institutions held credentials for individuals. I have a degree from XYZ University. I have a master's from ABC University. In order for you to show a potential employer, you've got to go back to your institution to get your um, your diploma or whatever degree you've gotten. There's now a movement with something called self-sovereign credentials. Self-sovereign credentials essentially state that you own your education, you own the work that you've done, and you should own your credentials. And this has been facilitated through the blockchain. So you, as an individual, will create on your own personal blockchain all of the different experiences that you have. So you went to University A and got your bachelor's degree. You went to a trade school and got a certification in B. You got another master's degree in institution C. You went to another credentialing organization or 5 credentialing organizations and got 5 more credentials. You have experience working at company X, company Y, company Z. So as you can see, you've got experiences, and I focus the word on experiences here, coming from lots of different areas. Right now, part of it's owned by your institution, part of it's owned by the professional organization, part of it's owned by you or through your resume. By putting it on the blockchain, having it verified on the blockchain, when you go to look for a position or a gig, if you're working in the gig economy, you can simply give the key to the blockchain, your blockchain, to show an individual what you've done. Not only would it have your different certifications on there, but you could also put your what's called evidence on there as well. I did a project, and here's what the results of the project are. Here's a video of the project. Here is the report that I made out of the project. So what you go and what self-sovereign um, credentialing means is you own all of your experiences, which makes you much more portable in the workplace because you don't have to go to all these different organizations then to get the validation that you're looking for. And really, this then is a way for you to accrue your portfolio, show your portfolio, so that you can give an individual who's looking to bring you on again, either as an employer or as a contractor, what sort of value you can provide given the credentials you have and proof of the work that you've done.
What does it take for a college or university to truly meet learners where they are, regardless of whether they're seeking credit, credentials, or skill based learning?
Traditionally, continuing education was kind of an island off on its own and very much separated from the credit bearing side of the house. One of the reasons I'm at Rutgers down in Camden at the business school is when I went to talk to the dean down there, and I talked to a number of deans before I took this position, she really understood that they have to be integrated. It's really, and we talk about continuous learning, really, not everybody is ready for a degree. Some people will never get a degree. That's fine. Some people may have gotten a degree 10 years ago and need to upskill. Then they don't need another degree. They need something to supplement what they have. So really, the role of the institution is to listen to what the individual needs, where they are in their career, where they want to go in their career, and then offer them up the right solution. For example, I'll have individuals who come to my particular unit, which is professional executive education, and I'll query them, for example, and say, do you have a degree now? They'll say, no. Is it something you think you're going to get in the future or, you're not going to get? They'll tell me what the answer is. And sometimes after I hear what they want to do, I'll recommend, you know what, you've got enough experience, you have know enough about the field. Sounds like what's holding you back in your career now is a lack of a degree. You started it, you're 60 credits short. Probably the best thing for you to do is finish your degree. I have other individuals, for example, we have a supply chain management program that we just started. And I've got a couple of individuals in there who, after I talked to them for a little bit, they said, well, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm ready going to want a master's degree. I've been working in supply chain for about 2 years now. And, I'm in just one little pocket of it. I want to get the big picture. So I said, well, this is perfect. This is a survey course. It's a 3-month course. It's going to give you all aspects at, very surface level of what the supply chain looks like. So you can see, first of all, what the big picture is and see if that's something you want to do and what part of the supply chain you may want to go into. So really to have the integrated piece of knowing that there are tasters out there in these short duration programs for people who have degrees and need a refresh or people who don't have degrees or thinking about degrees. So it's really, everything's got to work in a very holistic and coordinated fashion. And I've got a very good relationship with the individuals in the credit bearing side of the house. And we dialogue all the time. For example, one of the things that we did at Rutgers, which we actually got recognized for in our latest accreditation review, is we took some of the program that we had in our non-credit side of the house, which is the professional executive education, which is much more skill-based. And complements the academic foundational pieces of it. We took some of our skills-based courses and we converted them into one credit courses so that individuals who go through our programs on the credit side of the house leave with some externally recognized credentials and skills, such as Lean Six Sigma or Tableau or sales, different sales programs such as Salesforce, HubSpot. So they leave with the academic side, the theoretical side, and they leave with the skills. People are looking for, or employers are looking for individuals in their first positions, their early career positions, to have skills. Degrees are very important, very instrumental for your mid-career and to start your career, but they have more of a relevant place in your mid-career. You need skills. Employers want skills for their entry-level positions. Rutgers and Camden at the business school, we've recognized that. So now we have a combination of the academic side with the skill-based side. And that's just from listening to what the market, the employers want, and the students, what they want and what they need. So it's an integrated approach. It's not a one size fits all. And you really have to listen well to the students or the potential students, learners as we call them, what they need, and offer them the options and then give them the choice with some guidance. So Rutgers Camden is really taking a forward-looking perspective on what the market needs and what our learners need. In so doing, they are making sure that we are providing our students with not only the academic foundations that they need, but also the skills that they need. And that is something that the workforce and employers are looking for. We are making a commitment to have our students have experiential learning so that they hit the workforce when they graduate with experience in the workplace and have those workplace skills already set in place so that they hit the ground running.